If you're listening or watching this episode, it means that you want more knowledge, clients, money, and of course, better business and life. You know that your ability to plan and execute is essential to your success as a real estate agent or broker. So here's how you build a remarkable real estate business. Over the past 15 years, we have coached and interviewed thousands of agents and 30 of the top agents in the country, including number 4 and number 7 according to Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. And we've discovered that they all do different things and they do it in different ways. But they all do the major things exactly the same way. So let's start with what they don't do. They don't do cold calls. They don't call expired listings. They don't just send postcards. What they do is 100 times more powerful than any of those things. And even now, hardly any agent or real estate broker understands the strategy. The Masters in Real Estate Sales program from the Montiel organization gives you the opportunity to discover and implement those strategies and develop a plan customized for your business. This is the advice, the training you wish you had years ago. In an industry where, please listen to this, according to the Florida Association of Realtors, the average income of a full-time agent with 12 years of experience is $28,160. So you must definitely have a clear and simple strategy that actually works. So go to our website, montielorganization.com, or call 305-305-5965 to find out how you can build a remarkable real estate business. So now, let's go back to the interview. Welcome to another episode of the Miami Real Estate Show. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Jeff Miller, one of the top agents in the industry here in South Florida. Just to give you an idea, last year, and I know he doesn't want to talk about numbers, but I have to tell them to you guys. Last year, over $108 million in sales. So Jeff, welcome to the Miami Real Estate Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me in this beautiful apartment, which we're going to talk about. But I want to get started by asking you, why real estate and how long have you been in this beautiful industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first introduction to real estate was actually at a very, very young age.
Okay.
Was probably about 10 or 11 years old. And it was a summer job. My dad had got me a job with a friend of his that had a real estate company. Mm-hmm. And I actually worked alongside a guy that was a couple years older than me. He must have been in college or something like that. But what we did was we would put the open house signs or the for sale signs on the front lawns of the homes in my neighborhood where I grew up.
Where do you grow up?
In Staten Island, New York.
Okay.
So
that's where the drives come from.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would go around and we'd put the signs up for for the for sale signs. We would do some maintenance in the homes if they needed anything, and the one thing that stuck out to me is that when I first pulled up to the parking lot at the real estate company, everyone had a brand new nice car. Everyone had a Mercedes, a Jaguar, and I was like, Cadillac. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. These guys must be making, a lot of money to drive these fancy cars. So like that kind of always stuck in my head. And then kind of as I got a little bit older and, I always kind of thought about real estate would be something fun that I could do. And so I first moved to Miami Beach in 1998.
Okay.
And I was finishing up college and stuff, but then around 2003-04, I had a friend of mine, and her father was like, the real estate market is, really starting to get really hot down here in South Florida. You guys should get your real estate license. So I just kind of got my license on a recommendation from a friend.
That was it.
Started, and I remembered I kind of had like that, that early seed was planted from childhood about real estate. So I got my real estate license, and then I just started.
Now, here's the important thing. A guy that just in 12 years, pretty much, right, in real estate has gone from zero to over $100 million in sales. That's a huge, huge progress. So I want to know the first 6 months of Jeff Miller in the industry. I mean, you had no idea. You just got the license by a recommendation of a family, of a friend of yours. So tell me about those first 6 months. What did you do? Were you lost? Did you get a mentor? What happened in these in the first 6 months? Let's go back 12 years ago.
So the good thing is that when I first got my license, I wasn't married. I didn't really have any responsibility. My financial responsibility was very low. So I didn't have the pressure, to have to, sell $100 million in real estate. But when I first started, I reached out to all of my friends by phone and by email and saying, hey, I just got my real estate license. If you're looking to buy or sell something, let me help you find your place. So really, like my friends and family were really like the first people that I went to. I think my first year in real estate, I closed like $50,000 in commissions. So back in whatever year it was, I was 24, 25 years old. That was, fantastic. I was a king.
Right.
And, it kind of just grew from there. I kind of started, early in the morning every day, got into the office. I was always the first one in, last one to leave. And 12 years later, that just kind of grew to what happened, what we're talking about now.
So that was your routine. It was every single day getting early to the office. Did you had a plan at the time? Did you follow a method? Did you had a mentor when you got started in those first 6 months? What do? You call your friends, you send them postcards, you visit them. Did you had any plan, or you just went along and just meeting as many people as you could?
So I didn't have a mentor.
Okay.
Looking back, knowing what I know now, I would definitely, if I'm starting over today fresh, at that age, I would 100%, have a mentor and work for a senior agent in the business.
Very good.
100%.
Good point.
But at the time, no, I didn't have a mentor. I was very fortunate that I had just come from an industry where I had a lot of connections locally and knew a lot of people. I was in the hospitality industry, so I had a good Rolodex of customers, clients, and friends, and a lot of very affluent, wealthy people. So I was able to tap into that network right away and really start to build my business.
Okay. What did you do at the point? Because it's very important. Some people say, well, Jeff had the opportunity because you were special. You had the connections. Well, all those people that you knew at the time knew other agents too.
Correct.
All right. So what did you do in terms of preparation to make sure that when you were in front of those people that you had access to and they knew other agents? What did you do differently at the time to make sure that they saw you as not as a person with a real estate license, but a real estate agent?
Absolutely. So what was important to me is that I really wanted to make sure that I had a good understanding and knowledge of the product that I was trying to sell.
Very good.
I picked an area that I thought was the market that I wanted to be in. At that time I was younger and my friends were, around the same, financial, status as I was. There was a lot of really cool Art Deco apartments in South Beach. They were doing condo conversions, and that market was trading like $200,000 to $500,000.
So you pick a specific area.
So I picked a specific area. That was the market that I thought I would do the best in, and I really learned that market. I went to all of the developer sales centers. I got all the information, the brochures. The internet was kind of just coming to life at that time for in the real estate world.
We're old,
right? So so it was important. It was important to have the brochures. It was important to have the floor plans because at that time, information, was key and knowledge was key. So I felt that I had a leg up on everyone else because I really was knowledgeable about the product that the customer was looking to buy. So if I was meeting someone for the first time and they said, oh hi, I'm Jeff Miller, I'm in real estate, we're thinking about getting a place in Miami, and they're like, I am thinking about getting a place in Miami, I was able to answer their questions and like, wow, this guy really understands the market and knows, and can answer the questions, that I have. He seems like someone that I want to work with,
So two things, very, very important. Number one, make sure you specialize in a specific area. You pick a small area. And number two, you become the expert in that area.
Correct.
All right?
Correct.
Instead of generalizing.
Correct.
All right? Something very important. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but you were recommended to me by a peer of yours. and Julian Johnson. He said, very, very good agent you are.
Yeah,
And that's
great guy.
Great. And he spoke very
Super
highly
nice.
about you when I interviewed him.
I know Julian for 10 to 15 years. We have similar backgrounds, how we got into the industry.
And he said exactly the same thing. Is I went from the general real estate instead of commercial residential, I specialized in residential, then Miami Beach, then the Venetian Islands, and that's how I became a top producer like yourself.
Correct. Yeah.
So you you specialize in an area, you become the expert of choice. Now, when is it exactly the point where you really take off from $50,000 in commissions to really making $150,000, $200,000? Is it within the first 2 years? It takes more than 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. So for me, I don't know if it took a little bit longer than some other agents. Okay. So I've been in the business 12 years. I would say really around year 5 is where I really started to mature as as a person and also in the business world. And that's really where I saw a huge uptick. Also, what started to happen was around year 5 is a lot of my customers that I had previously sold apartments to decided they either wanted to upgrade to something bigger or maybe they were moving out of the city so they wanted to sell. So I had my regular customers that were buying, and then I started to get into the resale market where I started working with more sellers. So my business went from just working with buyers and then to sellers, and it basically doubled at that one point. And then from there forward, it's the real estate is referral basis. So I tend to think that I do a good job for the customers that I'm working with, and they would continue to work with me in the future. A very high percentage of them do. And then, I just kind of won them back. I maintained those relationships, and then, every 3 to 5 years going forward, the customers would just kind of think about either resell or upgrade, and we, would help them to, to buy or sell.
Something we were talking off cameras, you mentioned again right now, it's maintaining the relationship.
Right.
And you mentioned a story about an agent. And can you share that story with the
absolutely.
audience? So you were a younger agent competing with somebody who was a top producer already in the industry. So what happened?
Right, so it was...
By the way, I'm looking at the building you were talking
about right behind me.
Right.
So it was in my first to second year of real estate.
Okay.
And there was an apartment at the Continuum that...
right here.
Right here. It was owned by, a friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine, someone that I became that we became friends. And it was a $2 million apartment, and, he wanted to sell it. So, I was very young, I was aggressive, I worked hard, I dressed the part, I looked the part, I had the knowledge, and I interviewed with him to get the listing. And when I was finished with the interview, I was like, I nailed it, I think I got it, 100%, I'm gonna get my first listing in the Continuum, this is fantastic. And so I did my follow-up phone call, and he was very straightforward with me, an older man, in his early 60s, and basically told me at the time, he said, Jeff, I think you're great. I think you're going to have a really good career in real estate. But I'm going with someone else. Okay. And I really like you, and I want to tell you why. Okay. And these are the reasons I'm going with someone else. I'm going with an agent that has quite a bit more experience than you have. Okay. They've already sold apartments in this building. They're at the time $50 to $100 million a year producer, and they just have more experience, more knowledge than you have.
So what did you do?
Right. So at that time,
that happens to every single agent.
Yeah. So I think I walked to the local bar and had like a couple of shots and some drinks, and I was like, oh my God, this is so depressing. No, I didn't do that. I felt a little wounded, but I didn't get knocked down. And so I maintained the relationship.
Maintain the relationship.
I maintained the relationship with the customer. That apartment, wound up sitting on the market. It wound up not selling. It actually went to another agent, for sale after that. And then at one point, the customer decided they wanted to rent it. And this is maybe 3-4 years after that initial, that initial meeting. Wow. And I had stayed front and center with the customer, maintained the relationship, and I had the opportunity again to rent it. This time I had some more years of experience. Of course. Did some more sales. The rental wasn't as big as a financial decision for the owner of the property, so he thought it was something that I was ready to handle at that time. So he gave me the opportunity then to rent the apartment. So I rented the apartment for him. I managed it for a couple of years, and then a couple of years down the road, I wound up being the winning agent that got the listing and sold the apartment.
Very good.
And from that one sale, I could probably count I'd need more than two hands to count the deals that I've done from that one sale. I've sold other apartments in the continuum for it. I was referred to other customers, because of that sale. So, if you have an opportunity with a customer, I would say, hang in there. Eventually, it'll come full circle.
Now I want to touch. That's a great story because every single agent goes through that process.
Absolutely.
Right? On facing a competition with a person that is more experienced, that has more to prove.
Even today, I still do it. Even every day.
Every day. So I want to touch into three things. It's time management, teamwork, and marketing.
Okay.
How important are those three things for you? So number one, time management. Everybody, whether you're a new agent, experienced agent, or a top producer like yourself, has issues with time management.
Right.
How do you handle your day to be more productive?
Yeah, so I think time management, at least for me, now is even more difficult than when I first started. The obvious reason, I guess, is because I have more customers now, so I have more people to respond to. But with smartphones, it gives us the ability to work from outside our office and be mobile, and which is a huge advantage. It's fantastic. However, customers expect an immediate response. So they want to be able to hear from you at all times. They call you on your cell phone, they send you an email, a text. You don't respond after a couple seconds. Some customers, they're like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you responding?
So what do you do in that case?
Right, so it's very challenging.
Do you have a team right now?
Right, so to basically handle all of those situations, yes. I grew from one agent, pretty much only working with buyers. Then I started to get a bunch sellers that wanted me to represent them to sell their homes. My team started to grow. I have in-house people that are salaried employees that work 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. They're in the office every day. Admin, marketing people, contract administration. So they basically handle all of the day-to-day nuances of the job, which as your company starts to grow, you need to do it. To put it in perspective, imagine if you were opening up a restaurant and you were the maitre d', the chef, the waiter, the bartender. It's impossible.
That's a great example.
You can't do it.
Right.
So in the real estate field, when a lot of people first get into it, you're an individual. You're one person. You're not really sure if you're working with buyers or sellers, but you're expected to wear a lot of different hats. But you don't have a lot of clients when you first start, so you can manage, all those different positions, on your own. If you had one customer come to the restaurant, you probably could say hello to them, sit them down, cook the food, to serve them the food, and that's it. One customer a day, you can do that. But once you start serving 100 customers a day, it's impossible. So it's the same thing in the real estate, field. As you get a little bit more successful and grow your brand, you need to have more back-end support, to help. So some agents kind of start out in the beginning and have, as a team and have multiple agents kind of working together. I decided that I kind of wanted to grow my, my organization kind of differently, and I just hired, salaried employees to handle, all of the jobs that needed to be, completed.
Now, in terms of marketing, what do you do?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things. It's so broad, but again,
offline first. Okay, so since it is so broad, let's divide it into what do we do offline marketing and online marketing.
Okay, so for marketing, the first thing that I do is kind of identify what market I want to be in. So I'm wearing two hats. I'm wearing my marketing for buyers and marketing for sellers. So if I'm looking for sellers, I got to figure out, okay, I want to sell in this neighborhood or these condos. So first thing I might do, is send out mailers to the building, letting them know what's going on. If I haven't sold anything in the building at that point, then I would kind of send like a market analysis. This is what's sold in the building over the last 6 months. If you're thinking about buying or selling, contact me. I'm here to help you. If I have the opportunity that I gain a listing in the building, the first thing I'm gonna do is send out a brochure, a flyer to the building. Look at me. I have this beautiful new listing in the building. Check it out if you'd like to see it. It's a great touching point to get in front of the customer. And then thirdly, when you actually sell the apartment, you have another opportunity to send out a postcard to the building saying, I just sold this apartment. This is how much it's sold for. If you're thinking about selling, apartment, please contact me. So from a seller's perspective or going after sellers, you basically have the ability to touch a customer 3 times
in a very short period of time.
In a very short period of time for relatively inexpensive amount of money if you're really specific. I think one of the key things too is to continue to repeat what you're doing. If you send 1 postcard a year to a building, I know I get a lot of mail every day. It's kind of just going to get lost in the mail.
Very good point.
However,
frequency and consistency.
Absolutely.
Right?
So if
that's a great point.
depending on what your budget is, but if you can send, quarterly, monthly, bi-yearly, whatever it is, the more often you send it, the more the customer is going to start to, remember you.
Yeah. One of the key points is that you don't have to go after 10, 15 buildings. It's rather just focus on 1 building and send them monthly or weekly than send them 1 a year to the whole Miami Beach. Right.
Another important thing that I did when I first started is I looked at the amount of sales that were happening in the neighborhood or the building. For example, right now, if you look at a very famous building in South Beach, the Apogee, there's only 67 apartments. The building is settled. There's a lot of end users that live there. We typically, right now in this market, see like 1 to 2 trades a year. So if I only focused on that building, competing against all the other agents, my slice of the pie is going to be very, very small, especially as a new agent. Right. So you need to do a little bit of homework on your end as well.
Yeah, what we do with the agents is make sure that when you want to focus in one area, when you start going after the listings, is make sure that you find an area where there are at least 80 to 90 properties sold within usually a total of 2,000 units. So your marketing budget is low enough, right? So 80 to 90 properties sold within the last 12 months. And if you can dominate at least 12 to 15% of that market, you'll have at least 1.5 to 2 listings every single month. Right. So as you said, we need to make sure that the market we are going after has enough sales to make worth the investment in that market.
Absolutely.
Very good.
So that's just like one little strategy that you can deploy to try to find potential sellers in a market. Then you have what many realtors have done for years is go after for sale by owners, go after expired listings, and pick up the phone and call them and say, hi, I just wanted to let you know that.
Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I have. I have done it in my career.
Okay.
The house next door just sold, for, X amount, $3 million, and, your house is worth approximately the same. Were you thinking about selling? The market is really, is really strong right now. Or vice versa, you can say, I see that your property was on the market and it was listed for X and it hasn't sold. I have some great ideas. I would like to discuss with you about, selling your home. Would you allow me the opportunity to meet with you and talk to you about your home? Most people are going to say yes if you present it the right way. If you sound very salesman-y, they'll probably just hang up on you before you even say, finish saying hello. But so those are some other ways to go after potential sellers in an area.
Now, looking back 12 years in your career, if you were to talk today to the younger Jeff Miller, what would you say to that new agent, Jeff Miller, getting started in the business? What would be the 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give Jeff Miller, the young 22, 23-year-old?
Right. So, I kind of learned a lot of this business on my own.
Okay.
Looking back on my career, I probably would have worked with a senior agent and had a mentor, especially earlier in my career. I just didn't have access to certain buildings or certain neighborhoods because I didn't have the connection to buyers that wanted to look at those properties or sellers that would allow me to represent them. So the only opportunity I had to see like an apartment in Continuum or look at a house on Star Island was if I went to an open house. Other than that, I never got to see the product that I wanted to sell. I can only look at it on paper. So I never had, you know, like that. I was never able to touch the product, which made it, in my opinion, more difficult for me to sell because I didn't see it firsthand. Even little simple things like, you know, if you are taking a customer for the first time to a building and you don't know how to get there, or a single family home, you don't know how to get to the neighborhood, or you don't know where the valet ramp is, you know, for the building, or where the front entrance to the door. You know, the Icon in South Beach has about 8 front doors to the building, and only one of them is the entrance. I can't tell you how many times I've been waiting in the lobby for another realtor to come with their customer, and they walk up to the wrong front door, and you just know right away they're a junior agent. They don't know how to open the front door.
And as you see the trend, Jeff, if you're paying attention, you see that right now the trend is either you create a team or you join a team. It's very difficult to make it on your own.
It's challenging to make it on your own. You know, there's a lot of benefits of working with a team because you just have more support.
All type of support, marketing, mindset, so attitude support, you know,
absolutely.
Access to the properties,
information,
right?
You know, unless you have, you know, someone, unless you're transferring from another career, or you have someone maybe backing you or bankrolling you, you might not have the financial wherewithal to hire support staff.
Very good.
Especially when you're, you know, when you're younger in the industry.
Jeff, one final piece of advice. For the agent today in 2016, what would be the number one advice you would give, whether a new agent, well, we already talked about new agents, but an experienced agent? How do you see the real estate market, and how would you approach the real estate market right now at the end of 2016?
Yeah, so, you know, we're in a challenging market here in Miami. We saw a tremendous amount of growth over the last, you know, several years. So the market is a little bit softer, and it's a lot more challenging for us to put deals together. So, you know, as a new agent or a senior agent, you know, your attention to detail is even, you know, so much more important, you know, than it was. It's always important, but you really have to, you know, look at every little detail, every detail to, you know, to help make a deal go through. You know, and that's, you know, from making sure that you arrive at the apartment a half hour earlier and have all the lights on and the air conditioning on so it's nice and cool, making sure the apartment's clean, you know, whatever it is to give the customer the best experience. But, you know, a lot of it too is, I mean, we rely on each other in this industry. Some realtors are easier to work with, some are a little bit harder. I hope that you know, the realtor public out there thinks that I'm one of the easier ones to work with. I'm sure I've been on the other end of it, you know, depending if we're negotiating a tough deal. But you know, I think I have a pretty good relationship with most of the realtors. So, you know, if they want to show one of my listings, we're pretty much available, or vice versa. Yeah.
Jeff, it's been a pleasure. We learned a lot today, focusing on a specific area, making sure that you send the proper marketing material, making sure that you have a team. And if you don't have a team that allows you to, that gives you that support, join a team, you know, get a mentor from the beginning. It's been a wonderful interview for me. Thank you for having me in this amazing penthouse at the Addition. I mean, one of the premium buildings in Miami Beach. You're going to have in the footnotes, you're going to have all the high definition pictures, the video, all about this amazing apartment, which is how much?
Well, the apartment's on the market for $6.5 million.
$6.5 million. How big is it?
It's a 2-bedroom apartment. It's 2,300 square feet.
Two-story?
2 stories. It's a duplex. It's a penthouse apartment, so you have a rooftop with a jacuzzi. You have an outdoor kitchen, barbecue area. And then you're right here in Miami Beach on the ocean with some of the best views that I've seen in South Beach.
Jeff, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time, make it a very, very productive day. Take care, guys.